Boom boom shakalaka boom. सो पीपल अभी कुछ देर पहले थोड़ा सा इंटरनेट इशू की वजह से ये चीज़ें डिस्टर्ब हो गई थी, तो हम शुरुआत करेंगे। 3 मिनट हो गए, पता भी नहीं चला मुझे। ठीक है, तो वही मैं चेक कर रहा था कि सही जा भी तो रहेंगे नहीं, इस वजह से। तो हम इकोनॉमी में बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट पढ़ रहे थे, इसका रिवीजन पार्ट चल रहा है। सेम चीज़ होगा, सारी चीज़ें सेम होंगी, रिवीजन में भी वही चीज़ होगा, बस आप लोग रिवीजन कर लो मेरे साथ। ओके ओके, शुरू करते हैं। किधर हो भाई ये? अड्डा अड्डा अड्डा। ओए ओए ओए। बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट कितने टाइप के होते हैं? 4 टाइप के होते हैं। क्या हो गया भाई आपको? आज तो सारा काम ऊपर नीचे चल रहा है हमारा। कुछ इधर चल रहा है, 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 कुछ इधर चल रहा है। ऐसे कैसे चलेगा? बहुत जल्दी सब ठीक हो जाएगा। बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट So balance of payment. Components of payment. Balance of payment is 4 types: current account, capital account, official reserve, transaction, error and omission. Balance of payment: surplus and deficit. A current that has a deficit in its current account. A country that has a deficit in its current account, spending more than it receives from sales to the rest of the world must finance it by selling assets or by borrowing from abroad to maintain equilibrium at the balance of payment. It is to be noted that the net balance of payment of the entire world is zero. Thus, any current account deficit must be financed by a capital account surplus, that is a net capital inflow. If current account plus capital account is equal to 0, in this case a country is said to be in balance of payment equilibrium. The current account deficit is financed entirely by international lending without any reserve movement. Official reserve transaction by buying and selling of currency in the market by the RBI. When the economy is in deficit, foreign currencies are sold in the exchange market, and when the economy is in surplus, they are purchased. The Reserve Bank sells foreign exchange when there is a deficit. This is called the official reserve sale. The decrease in official reserves is called the overall balance of payment deficit, whereas the increase in official reserve, is called the overall balance of payment surplus. According to the RBI's October 2022 bulletin, India has foreign exchange reserves worth 532.9 billion that accounts for 8.7 months worth of imports projected for the current financial year. Balance of trade BOT. The balance of trade is the difference between the value of export and the value of import of goods of a country in a given period of time. The balance of trade BOT is the difference between the value of export between the value of export and the value of import of goods of a country in a given period of time. Export of goods is entered as a credit item. Export of goods is entered as a credit item in balance of trade, whereas import of goods is entered as a debit item in BOT. It is also known as trade balance. Balance of trade is said to be in balance when export of goods are equal to the import of goods. Surplus what? Balance of trade. Surplus. Balance of trade. To trade surplus will arise if a country export more goods than what it imports. Deficit balance of trade. Deficit balance of trade or trade deficit will arise if country imports more goods than what it exports. It includes the visual part of the current account of balance of payment. It includes the visual part of the current account of balance of payment. It only constitutes the trade in goods. It only constitutes the trade in goods and does not contain services in items of values. India is a trade deficit country. The import is greater than export. Balance of payment BOP crisis. The balance of payment BOP crisis. The BOP can either be positive or negative. If BOP is negative, for example, $50 billion, for the forex reserve is $600 billion, the situation of crisis does not arise. And in case 2, if BOP is negative, for example, minus $30 billion, the forex reserve is $30 billion. This is the situation of the BOP crisis. Hence, BOP crisis occurs when BOP deficit is greater than forex reserve. BOP deficit is greater than deficit जो है वो ज़्यादा होगा the forex reserve with the central bank of country. In case of the balance of payment crisis, the International Monetary Fund (IMF) extends loan to the country in crisis under the precondition that the borrowing country would undertake a structural reform in its economy to avoid a domino effect in the world economy. India faced the BOP crisis in 1991. They approached IMF and World Bank for loans. India agreed to the conditionalities of the World Bank and IMF and announced the new economic policy NEP. The NEP consisted of wide-ranging economic reforms known as LPG or the liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Domino effect. The domino effect or chain reaction is the cumulative effect generated when a particular event triggers a chain of similar event. Domino effect or chain reaction is a cumulative. Domino effect is a cumulative effect generated when a particular event triggers a chain of similar event. Reasons for import. Trade deficit occurs when the value of import by a country exceeds its export. The reasons why a country imports more goods are if there is no production done domestically, if the production done is not sufficient to meet the domestic demand. Production is sufficient but costly and of inferior quality. Example: the Indian automobile industry import good quality cheaper steel from China despite having domestic production. The import can be reduced either by increasing the production or reducing the consumption. Trade deficit. Case of India. India currently faces a trade deficit as the value of its import is much more than the export done by India. The top 5 import of India as a percentage of total import as a percentage of total imports as of May 22 are crude oil and petroleum 29.93%, gold 9.6%, electronic goods 8. Electronic goods 8.98%, coal 8.80%, machinery 5.14%. Reducing the oil imports. To reduce the trade deficit and to make the balance of trade surplus, the government of India has set a target to boost the domestic oil production by 10% by 2022. This required a proper oil exploration policy. Exploration policy of India. Net New Exploration Licensing Policy, New Exploration Licensing Policy, NELP in 1997. It was formulated in 1997. It was formulated in 1997 and it became effective in 1999. The main objective was to attract Indian and foreign oil companies to explore oil and gas resources in the country to meet rising demands of oil and gas. Since then, licenses for exploration are being awarded only through a competitive bidding system, and national oil companies and NOCs are required to compete on an equal footing with Indian and foreign companies to secure petroleum exploration licensing. Production sharing contract model. The new exploration licensing policy of 1997 was based on the production sharing contract model. Under this model, the oil producing companies had to share a portion of profit earned with the government. However, these companies would lower the production or show lesser profit, causing revenue loss of the government. Hydrocarbon exploration licensing policy. HELP 2016. Hydrocarbon exploration licensing policy, HELP 2016. Uniform license. The policy has a single license that will cover exploration and production of all types of hydrocarbons, which conventional oil and gas, coal bed methane, shale oil, gas hydrates, etc. Revenue sharing models. Simple, easy to monitor. Only two parameters for the government. Which is the revenue and production of the contractor. This policy has replaced the earlier model of the production sharing contract. Reduced and graded royalty rates. To encourage exploration in deep water and ultra deep water areas, the royalty was exempted for the first 7 years, and subsequently royalty of 5% and 2% applicable in deep water and ultra deep water areas respectively. Open acreage licensing mechanism. It gives an option to a company looking for exploration hydrocarbon to select the exploration block on its own without waiting for the formal bid round from the government. Marketing and pricing freedom for the crude oil produced. Marketing and pricing freedom for the crude oil and natural gas produced. Strategic reserves. A strategic petroleum reserve is a stockpile of crude oil held by a government or a private company to ensure economic and national security during an energy crisis. The strategic reserves held by a country is in addition to the existing storage of crude oil and petroleum products with oil companies. The concept of having a strategic petroleum reserves originated during the 1973 energy crisis. The presence of a petroleum reserves would stop a sudden price hike in the event of a global crisis and would discourage the use of oil as a political weapon. The multinational The Multinational International Energy Agency was established in 1974 to ensure security to oil supply and solidarity amongst amongst major industrial countries in dealing with energy crisis. The Multinational International Energy Agency (IEA) was established in 1974 to ensure security of oil and supply and solidarity amongst major industrial countries in dealing with the energy crisis. IEA contains the IEA contains the International Energy Program. IEA contains the International Energy Program. In its framework, it commits the member countries to maintain sufficient oil reserves to have an emergency response for at least 90 days. India signed it in 2017. India signed it in 2017. Indian Strategic Petroleum Reserves Limited, Indian Strategic Petroleum Reserves Limited, ISPRL. A Government of India, a special purpose vehicle has established. Strategic Petroleum Reserves (SPR) facility in 3 locations in phase 1, namely विशाखापट्टनम आंध्र प्रदेश में है, मंगलुरु कर्नाटका, पदूर कर्नाटका। ये क्या है, ये रिजर्व्स लोकेशन है और 2 और कंस्ट्रक्शन में है अभी। एज पर द कंजम्पशन पैटर्न ऑफ 2019-2020 द टोटल कैपेसिटी ऑफ द strategic oil reserve is estimated to provide for about 9.5 days of crude oil requirement. In addition, oil marketing companies (OMC) in the country have a storage facility for crude oil and petroleum products for 64.5 days. Thus, the current total national capacity for storage of crude oil and petroleum products currently is 74 days. Under Phase 2 of the SPR program, the government has given in principle approval in 2018 for establishing 2 additional SPR facilities at Chandikhol in Odisha and Padur in Karnataka. Padur in Karnataka. एक कंप्लीट हुआ। अब आते हैं दूसरे पे। Balance of payment. Third part, import of crude oil and gold. Crude oil and gold form a major portion of import and must be reduced to keep the current account deficit in control. Case of crude oil, OPEC. Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, is a permanent intergovernmental organization of 13 oil exporting developing nations. It acts as a cartel group of sellers who predetermine the price to control the prices of the crude oil. It was founded in Baghdad, Iraq, with the signing of an agreement in 1960 by 5 founding countries, namely Islamic Republic of Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela. Currently, the organization has a total of 13 member countries, which includes Algeria, Angola, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Venezuela. OPEC, the objective is to coordinate and unify petroleum policies. Among member countries in order to secure fair and stable prices for petroleum producers, an efficient economic and regular supply of petroleum to consuming nations, and a fair return on capital to those investing in the industry. OPEC plus in 2016, OPEC plus was created with the OPEC members nations allying with 10 other oil producing countries: Russia, Azerbaijan, Brunei, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Mexico, Oman, South Sudan and Sudan. Petrol and direct prices in India. Till 2022, administered price mechanism was followed where the government decided the price in petrol and diesel. Till 2002, petrol and prices in India. Till 2002, administered price mechanism was followed where the government decided the price of petrol and diesel. After 2002 and 2014, government has started the phase-wise deregulation of the price of petrol and diesel. In 2014, present dynamic pricing system is being followed. According to this system, the price of fuel in India now fluctuate with the international market. After 2014, 2014 के बाद से dynamic price system. Case of gold, reducing gold import. It is essential to reduce the import of gold to reduce the current account deficit. Reason for import of gold. After 2010, there was an increase in the rate of inflation. Higher inflation would reduce the purchasing power of money. And would lead to negative real interest rate. Example: if 5% is the rate of interest offered by a bank on a fixed deposit and the inflation in an economy is 7%, then the real rate of interest would be -2%. Hence, to avoid the negative real rate of interest, people move toward investing in gold. This increased the imports of gold and led to an increase in the current account deficit. Various schemes to reduce the imports of gold. Sovereign gold bonds scheme was launched by the government in 2014. It is a bond certificate or security. It is a bond certificate or security issued by the government sovereign denominated in grams of gold instead of rupees dominated bonds. Featuring of sovereign gold bonds. Features of sovereign gold bonds. It is issued by Reserve Bank of India on behalf of Government of India. The bond will be denominated in multiples of grams. Of gold with a basic unit of 1 gram. The maturity of bond will be 8 years with exit option in 5th, 6th and 7th years to be exercised on the interest payment date. Minimum permissible investment will be 1 gram of gold. The maximum limit of investment is 4 kg for individuals, 4 kg for Hindus undivided family, and 20 kg for trust and similar entities. These bonds are tradable in the Indian stock market. They can be used as a collateral to avail loans. They are exempted from the capital gain tax. The bonds bear interest at the rate of 2.50% fixed rate per annum on the amount of initial investment. Interest will be credited semi-annually to the bank account of the investor. On maturity, the investor gets a monetary amount depending on the rate of gold at the time of maturity. Gold monetization scheme. It modified the existing gold deposit schemes. It modified the existing gold deposit scheme and gold metal loan scheme (GML). It was launched in 2015 with the intention to mobilize gold held by households and institutions of the country and facilitate its use for production purposes, and in the long run to reduce the country's reliance on the import of gold. Features of gold monetization scheme. In the case of this scheme, the idle gold is deposited in the commercial bank. The tenure of the scheme is 1 to 15 years. The minimum gold to be deposited is 10 gram while there is no maximum limit. कितना भी हो सकता है. The gold jewelry deposited is melted at the Metal and Mineral Trading Corporation of India (MMTC) Metal and Mineral Trading Corporation of India and is converted to Indian gold coins, which are not legal tender. Gold under the scheme can be deposited in any form, bars, coins, or jewelry, and the depositors also has the option to either take cash or gold on redemption. Hence, the investor at the time of redemption will not get the gold in the same form as they had put in. Investors can only redeem the deposits in the form of money, bars, or gold coins. Benefits of gold monetization scheme. Easy and safe storage. The scheme offers safe storage of the investor's gold, and unlike bank lockers, does not charge for deposit safekeeping. Instead, the investor gets guaranteed return and can redeem the deposit in gold or money at the time of maturity. Mobilizing gold. It mobilizes the gold held by household and puts it into productive use. Tax benefit. Earning from the gold monetization schemes are exempted from the capital gain tax. Attractive interest rate. The schemes allows customers to deposit their idle gold holdings for a fixed period in return for interest in the range of 2.25 to 2.50%. Current account deficit. The current account deficit would reduce if the total value of goods and services exported exceeds the goods and services imported. India's current account deficit has been reducing in the recent years due to the following reason: rise in remittances, net services receipt or export of services has increased. Net transfer payment is positive. As of March 2022, the current account deficit of India was 1.5% of GDP. Impact of current account deficit on economy. Impact of current account deficit on economy. If the current account deficit is high, then there would be greater demand of foreign currency. Depreciation of the domestic currency, and it would lead to higher inflation. Higher inflation would require higher wages. This would increase the cost of production, leading to the spiraling of the inflation and hence increasing the current account deficit. However, the current account deficit is not a problem if the money is spent on the acquisition of technical know-how which would be helpful for the future. मेरे को लग रहा है ना कि मेरे को सिर्फ इकनॉमी वाला पार्ट कंप्लीट हो पाएगा, उसके बाद से देखते हैं क्या करते हैं, क्योंकि कोई रीज़न नहीं है, ये बहुत बड़ा है। इसके बाद हिस्ट्री का पार्ट कंप्लीट करने में 20 पेज का है, 18 पेज का। ये हाउ टू रिड्यूस द करेंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट। द करेंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट कैन बी रिड्यूस्ड बाय increasing export or reducing import. Indian foreign trade policy aims to increase export and reduce the current account deficit. Foreign trade policy of India, it is a legal document enforceable under the Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act 1992. Foreign trade policy is a set of guidelines and instructions formulated by the Directorate Journal of Foreign Trade. The current foreign trade policy was applicable from 2015 to 2020. It was extended due to COVID and is currently valid till March 2023. Foreign trade policy 2015 to 2020 provides a framework for increasing export of goods and services as well as generation of employment and increasing value addition in the country. In keeping with the Make in India vision, the focus of the policy is to support both the manufacturing and services sector with a special emphasis on improving the ease of doing business. Targets of foreign trade policy to make India a trillion US dollar, 5 trillion. Targets of foreign trade policy to make India a 5 trillion US dollar economy. To correct the trade imbalance existing in the economy. Creation of a district export hub. Role of government. The government aims to provide the following to achieve the targets of the foreign trade policy. First, incentive, access to credit, creation of enabling infrastructure, promoting digitization. Significance of foreign trade policy. Trade facilitation. Trade facilitation is a priority of the government of cutting down the transaction cost and time, thereby rendering Indian exports more competitive. It aims to promote ease of doing business, adopting paperless work, reduce transactions, time and cost. It aims to reduce the turnaround time of ships and hence make India's export more competitive. Generation of employment. Increased economic activity would ensure creation of employment for the citizens of the country. Value addition. A clearly defined policy would ensure upgrading of goods exported and make them better in terms of quality and service Salient features of foreign trade policy. Features of foreign trade policy 2015 to 2020. Merchandise export from merchandise export from India scheme. The objective of merchandise export from India scheme, MEIS, merchandise exports from India scheme, is to offset infrastructure inefficiencies and associated cost involves in export of goods products which are manufactured in India, especially those having high export intensity employment potential and thereby enhancing India's export competitiveness. It has subsumed 5 schemes which are as follows. First one, focus product scheme, market linked focus scheme, focus market scheme, agriculture infrastructure incentive scheme, विशेष कृषि इवाम ग्राम उद्योग योजना, services export from India scheme. It aims to encourage export of notified services from India. A special economic zone SEZ. The special economic zone policy was launched in April 2000. The special economic zone act was in 2005 and came into effect in 2006. It is deemed to be a foreign territory for the purpose of tax and trade laws. They serve as an income of economic growth. There are special laws for SEZ with significant relaxation and tax holidays, single window clearance, quality infrastructure. It is provided by the government. Presently, 378 SEZ was notified, out of which 265 are operational. It aims to create effective dispute settlement. Various government initiative like Make in India, Digital India, Skill India to be integrated with foreign trade. Integration of agriculture and village industry is envisaged in the foreign trade policy. It aims to create a council for trade development. BOP, balance of payment capital account. BOP, current account and capital account. करंट अकाउंट में क्या क्या होता है, विजिबल होता है एंड दूसरा इनविजिबल होता है. विजिबल्स में कौन कौन से पार्ट होते हैं, बीओपी, बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट, क्राइसिस, ट्रेड डेफिसिट, सीएडी एंड एक्सपोर्ट एंड इम्पोर्ट. एंड लेट्स मूव टू कैपिटल अकाउंट. कैपिटल अकाउंट में क्या होता है, इन्वेस्टमेंट होता है, लोन होता है, बैंक होता है. इन्वेस्टमेंट में क्या होता है, एफडीआई, एफपीआई, foreign direct investment is when a company takes control of ownership in a business entity in another country. With FDI, foreign companies are directly involved with day-to-day operations in the other country. This means they are not only bringing money with them but also knowledge, skills and technology. Generally, FDI takes place when an investor establishes foreign businesses operation on acquiring foreign businesses asset, including establishing ownership to country interest in a foreign company. It involves acquiring more than 10% shares in the company. Foreign portfolio investment, FPI. A portfolio investment on the other hand, a foreign portfolio investment. A portfolio investment on the other hand is an investment that a company makes into another company by the way of acquiring shares, or providing loans to the latter, and earns income by the way of dividends or interest of loan. It involves buying less than 10% shares of the company. Unlike foreign direct investment, the investor under portfolio investment does not get directly involved in production and marketing operations. It simply earns an income by investing in shares, bond, bills or notes in a foreign country, or providing loans to foreign business firms. And the last one, complete हो जा भैया, complete हो जा भाई, 4 पेज. हाँ, ये लास्ट सेशन चल रहा है हमारा इकोनॉमी का. इसके बाद से इकोनॉमी का नहीं कुछ बचेगा. ठीक है, तो फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट, एफडीआई हो गया. Foreign direct investment (FDI) is when a company takes control of ownership in a business's entity in another country. With FDI, foreign companies are directly involved with day-to-day operation in the other country. This means they are not only bringing money with them, but also knowledge, skills, and technology. Generally, FDI takes place when an investor establishes foreign businesses operation or acquiring foreign businesses assets, including establishing ownership or controlling interest in a foreign companies. It involves acquiring more than 10% shares in the company. Components of FDI: equity capital. It is the foreign direct investors' purchase of shares of an enterprise in a country other than its own. Reinvested earnings. The profit made by the investor are reinvested in the company and promote further growth. Intra-company loans. It is the short or long-term borrowing. Intra-company loans. It is the short or long-term borrowing and lending of funds between the investors. Advantages of FDI: boosts the economy of the country. Better business environment in a country would attract more FDI, which would further help in increasing economic activity of the country. Creation of human capital. Skill upgradation of the population through various initiatives like Skill India, providing vocational and technical education is done to attract more FDI. International chemical integration. In the era of globalization, along with its integrated supply chains, FDI act as a connecting force which helps in international chemical integration. Technical progression of the country. To attract FDI, a country must provide robust digital infrastructure. Healthy and competitive business environment. A healthy and competitive business environment would in turn promote economic growth. Disadvantages of FDI. FDI along with exchange rate limitation may be harmful. For the receiving country. It may decrease local investment. It may cause deliberate currency exchange rate manipulation. It may prefer a capital intensive economy. This may be disadvantageous for a developing country with a greater population of workforce. FDI routes in India. Automatic routes. In certain sectors, there is no prior permission required to bring in FDI. Sector in which 100% FDI is permitted under automatic routes are air transport services, no scheduled and other services under civil aviation sector. Non-scheduled and other services under civil aviation sector, airports, greenfield and brownfield. Auto components, automobiles, biotechnology, greenfield, broadcast content services, uplinking of non-news and current affairs, TV channels, downlinking of TV channels, broadcasting carrier services, capital goods, cash and carry wholesale trading including sourcing from MSE, chemicals, coal and lignite, construction of development, township townships, housing, built up infrastructure, constructing of hospitals, duty-free shops, e-commerce activities, electronic systems, food food processing, healthcare, greenfield, insurance, IT and BPM, leather, medical devices, mining and exploration of metal and non-metal ores. Other services under civil aviation sector, maintenance and repair organization, flying training institute and technical training institutes. Other services under civil aviation sector, ground handling services subject to sectoral regulation and security clearance, petroleum and natural gas, pharmaceutical, greenfields, ports and shipping, railway infrastructure, renewable energy, roads and highways, single brand product, retail trading, telecom services, textile and garments, thermal power, tourism and hospitality. Sector in which up to 100% FDI is permitted. Sector in which up to 100% FDI is permitted under automatic routes. Petroleum refining by PSUs. 49% FDI is permitted under automatic routes. Government routes, prior permission of the government is required to invest through this route. The application for this purpose needs to be made at the foreign investment facilitation portal. Sector percentage of FDI, foreign direct investment. Broadcasting content services 49%, digital media 26%, food products retail trading 100%, mining and mineral separation of titanium bearing minerals and ores, its value addition and integrated activities 100%, multi-brand retail trading for 51%, print media publications, printing of scientific and technical magazines especially 100%, journals, periodical and facsimile editions of foreign newspaper 100%, print media publishing of newspaper periodically and Indian edition of foreign magazines dealing with news and current affairs 26%. Combination of government and automatic routes. There are certain sectors in which FDI is permitted as a combination of automatic and government routes. In these sectors, FDI is permitted automatically up to a certain percentage, while above that percentage it is permitted after government approval. Sector: air transport services, scheduled air transport services, regional air transport services, automatic up to 49%, government above 49%, defenses up to 74%, above 74%, healthcare brownfield up to 74%, government above 74%, फार्मास्यूटिकल ब्राउनफील्ड अप टू 74 ऑटोमेटिक होता है और गवर्नमेंट में एबव 74%. The sector in which FDI is completely prohibited. In India, lottery industry, gambling and betting, cheat funds, The sector in which FDI is completely prohibited in India: lottery industry, gambling and betting, cheat funds, tobacco and tobacco substitutes, trading in transport development rights. Note: automatic energy and railway operations are the two sectors that is not open to private sector investment. Sector attracting the highest FDI data may need future updation. Computer software and hardware 22.9% FDI as percentage of total FDI. Automobile industry 15.8%, service sector 10.1%, trading 6.6%, telecommunication 1.2%. Top 5 FDI sources country for India, July 2022. Singapore, USA, Mauritius, Netherlands and Switzerland. So पीपल इकोनॉमिक्स वाली पार्ट तो कंप्लीट हो गया, ठीक है, इकोनॉमिक्स वाला पार्ट कंप्लीट हो गया है। रह गया है हमारा कौन सा, हिस्ट्री। हिस्ट्री में जाने की इच्छा नहीं हो रहा है, नेक्स्ट टाइम हिस्ट्री को कंक्लूड करेंगे, ठीक है। अभी मेरे को टेस्ट देना है, तो देखते हैं, इसको कंप्लीट करते हैं, फिर इसके बाद वाले वीडियो में टेस्ट पे आते हैं। ओके, बाय बाय। मेरे साथ पढ़ो और अपने दोस्तों के साथ भी शेयर कर दो, इसका नोट शाम को मिल जाएगा आपको। बाय।